Now let's take a look at the different types of columns that are available to us when we go to create a new table. In this movie, we're going to look at the string columns. That is, those types of columns that contain alphanumeric data. Before we do that, however, we're going to introduce two new SQL statements, the select and insert statements, that will allow us to view and add data from our tables. First of all, let's use the database that we created earlier on, and there's only one table so far in the database, and that's the fruits table. We can use the select statement to view the data from the fruits table. The syntax for the select statement is, first of all, the select keyword, followed by the name of the column or columns that we wish to view from the fruits table. We can use an asterisk if we want to view all the columns from the table. Then we specify from and then the table name, in this case fruits, followed by a semicolon. As we can see, empty set, there's no data at all in the fruits table because we've only just created it. We can use the insert statement to add data to the fruits table. The syntax for that is insert into, then the table name, then the keyword values, then we put whatever values we wish to add. Now, it's expecting alphanumeric data, so we enclose that within quote marks. And we enclose all the values within a pair of brackets. So in this case, apple, comma, green, the different values are separated by commas, and then once we've put all the values into the fruits table that we wish to add, we close the brackets and use a semicolon. So now, when we go back to viewing the data from the fruits table with the select statement, we'll see that there are two values which form one row in the table, apple and green. The column names are given at the top, and then all the data is listed underneath that. In this case, however, there's only one row. We'll be looking at the select and insert statements in more detail later on in this chapter. For now, let's have a look at another create table statement, and we're going to create a table called sample, and this table is only going to have one column for now, and that's going to be col1. We're going to make this a char type of column, and you may have noticed when we created the fruits table that that's the type that we used for those two columns as well. Both name and color columns in the fruits table are char columns. When we created the fruits table, we also included a size in brackets straight after the table type, in this case char. If we leave that out, then it can produce some interesting results. Let's say we create the table sample, and then we try to use an insert statement to add a value into the sample table. Now, because it only has one column, the insert statement only expects one value. In this case, we're going to say abracadabra. However, when we go to view the data from the sample table, it's only stored the first letter of that value that we tried to add. Now, the reason for that is when we specify a char type of column, but we don't specify a length, MySQL will assume that we mean a char column with a length of 1. So every piece of data that is put into the column can only be 1 character long. In this case, A. It'll take the first character. So we've effectively created a pretty useless column, unless for some reason we wanted to only store values with 1 letter long. You'll notice that when we try to add a value that's too long into the table, we don't get an error message. It just truncates the string that we've tried to add and tells us that the query worked okay. Let's remove the sample table and start again. In order to remove the table, we use a command called drop table, and this is another SQL command. Drop table sample.